Welcome to Philosophy in Pajamas Podcast's Deep Dive.
And today we are tackling a crisis signal that sounds less like an alarm and more like a gentle lullaby. We're diving into that deceptively simple, often terrifying phrase. It is okay.
That phrase, it's like a smoke detector just whispering, everything is fine, but maybe you should check the wiring. We're pulling apart a fantastic source today, excerpts from a text called Decoding the Silence of It Is Okay.
It was billed as a romantic comedy guide to reading silence with love.
Exactly. So if you've ever had your internal alarm bells just start screaming while someone is reassuring you that everything is completely normal, well, this deep dive is for you.
Yeah, what we're really exploring for you is that yawning chasm, the one that opens up between what is said and what is actually felt in a relationship. The source material is just this profound but also hilarious illustration of how one person's attempt to fix an invisible problem can turn a minor mood into what the narrator calls a full-scale thriller.
A full-scale thriller.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So our mission today is really to use this narrator's, let's call it chaotic experience, as a shortcut for all of us.
A shortcut to what?
To understanding relational communication a bit better. We want to unpack that whole psychological journey from, that low-level anxiety to the full-blown attempt to fix everything and why that so often fails.
And the central conflict here, it's laid out right from the start. For our narrator, the phrase, "it is okay," isn't reassurance at all.
Not at all.
It's the national anthem of trouble disguised as calm. The minute his partner, Sakshi, used those words, the internal terror was, well, immediate.
And it wasn't just mental, was it? The source makes a point of saying the last time she uttered those words, his soul performed yoga as if trying to predict the next move.
That is such a beautiful description of anxiety.
Isn't it? That desperate, contorted attempt to gain some control over a situation that feels totally ambiguous.
Which perfectly introduces our first big idea,
Yeah.
the emotional landscape of invisible trouble.
So let's start with that panic. He felt, and I'm quoting here, that storms whisper more honestly.
And that's such a key insight, right? Because we trust open conflict more than we trust a manufactured calm.
Yeah, and open conflict gives you data. You know what the problem is. The silence, it's okay, it gives you nothing but just pure high-stakes confusion.
And that confusion, that's what immediately kicks off what the source calls the invisible exam.
Yes. His heart begins packing bags for an emotional pilgrimage. You're suddenly in a test where you don't know the rules, you can't see the questions, and the results could be, existential.
Are you sleeping in the bed tonight, or are you relegated to the philosophical terrain of the couch?
It's the philosophical terrain. I love that.
The stakes are immense. And this uncertainty, this total paralysis, it drives his entire response. He can't stand not knowing, so he defaults to action.
To what he calls proactive romance.
Right. We should probably unpack that a little.
Right.
Proactive romance, it sounds good, doesn't it? Like being considerate?
It does, but here it seems to mean something much more anxious.
It is. It's the anxiety-driven need to solve a problem before it's even been stated. It's all based on projection, not actual inquiry.
So instead of just trusting her words, "it is okay," he trusts his internal panic that something must be wrong and it's his job to fix it. Silently.
Precisely. So his brain immediately starts categorizing. The problem must exist. And it's either, what, laughably small?
Like a missing hair clip?
Or impossibly massive, cosmic, like the simple fact of his own existence.
There's no middle ground. And crucially, no category for maybe nothing is wrong at all.
No.
Yeah.
And that assumption that it's always his fault is what fuels everything that comes next. All these spectacularly failed attempts to repair the damage. He's not trained to communicate better, he's trained to panic faster with better posture.
Which brings us right into the escalation of failed grand gestures. After that internal crash landing of the invisible exam, his immediate response is physical.
He tries the classic relationship gesture,
Yeah.
the warm beverage. He's got this flawless internal logic, right? Warm liquid equals warm forgiveness.
It's a substitutive action. You do something physical because you're avoiding the emotional work. I think we all do that.
We do. We look for a concrete task to substitute for a vulnerable question. But the failure of the tea is just, it's priceless.
It really is. When he brings her the tea, she looks at him like I had donated a broken chair in the name of charity.
Ouch. The intention was fine, but the offering itself was completely useless. It actually created a mismatch instead of a connection.
And that failure just cranks up the anxiety. That second, it is okay, that comes after the T.
Oh, he says it sounds like the trailer of a sequel I was not ready for.
The sequel, yes. He knows he failed the first test, and now the sequel is coming, and it's probably starring even more panic and even less communication.
So the investigation phase begins. He tries asking questions, but they're all based on his assumptions. Was it work? No. Did I forget something?
No, she just denies every single one, pushing him deeper into the mystery.
And then he asks the fatal question, the ultimate conversational dead end. Did I do something wrong?
And what does she say?
She delivers a line that stops every relationship cold. Precise, sage-like, and totally unhelpful. You tell me.
Oh, the weight of those 3 words. It confirms the crime, but the victim is withholding all the evidence.
And his brain just short-circuits. The source says his mind attempted to load past week's memory files and crashed.
You can almost hear the internal hard drive smoking.
Exactly. And that system overload forces a pivot. If he can't figure out the crime, well, he's just going to have to fix everything.
Which leads us directly into the heroic fix-it phase.
This is where the comedy really kicks in, because the effort is just pure, unadulterated, anxiety-driven physical labor. He starts operating in a heroic spirit.
Tell us about the cleaning.
It's intense. And totally misapplied, because he can't mend the relationship. He starts mending the physical world around them. He cleaned the house with such ferocity that the broom begged for retirement.
To poor broom. It's that level of intensity, right? Treating dust bunnies like they're the source of all your relational strife. And it didn't stop there.
No. The detail about the pillows is incredible.
He arranges the pillows with the intensity of a sculptor working on a national monument.
It's not just house cleaning.
Mm.
It's an obsessive ritual of control. He's trying to bring order to the chaos by perfecting these tiny, visible details.
And we can't forget the culinary disaster.
Ah, the lunch. He cooked a lunch that smelled like ambition but tasted like a cautionary tale.
Ambition being the desire to solve the relationship with flavor, I guess. But the taste is the consequence of applying overwhelming energy to a problem that doesn't actually exist.
You end up with a burnt offering.
So Sakshi comes home to this scene of manic, misplaced perfection and the smell of ambition gone wrong. And her reaction is the pivot point of the whole story.
It really is. He expects, I think, maybe some relief, gratitude for the clean kitchen. But her expression goes from surprise straight to deep concern.
She doesn't see a clean house.
No. She sees a person in crisis.
So when she asks him what he's trying to repair, he just collapses and says, everything.
And this leads to her diagnosis, which is really the core of the entire text, her quiet whisper.
You are creating more.
Exactly. His attempt to solve the original non-existent problem has now birthed a real, visible problem. His exhaustion, his panic, the chaos in the kitchen. The solution became the new crisis.
That is so relatable. I mean, how often do we, out of fear, take a quiet moment and just amplify it into a fight or a mess just by applying unnecessary force?
Constantly. Because we fear inaction more than we fear flawed action. So the narrator, he finally realizes he's made things worse, and he offers this grand, heartfelt apology for any unseen crime.
He gives up. He just apologizes for the general state of the universe and his place in it.
And then comes the twist. After all the panic, the tea, the broom, the sculptural pillows, what was the hidden issue?
There was no hidden issue.
None. The twist is that Sakshi was simply tired. No hidden layers, no secret puzzle. That's it. All that effort was spent trying to solve an enigma that was just basic human fatigue.
And he feels, understandably, like the universe had played a mild prank on him, the deflation after all that heroic energy to fix something that just needed rest, not repair.
And she gives him this perfect, memorable diagnosis of his behavior. They talk for an hour about how love often becomes a comedy of well-meaning disasters.
The quote is fantastic. You overthink with the energy of a festival crowd searching for sandals after sunset.
It's the perfect image, the sheer, unfocused panic. Hundreds of people in chaos convinced of a huge problem when the solution is probably just under the nearest bench.
Which leads us right to the core lessons of this whole thing. The narrator realizes that understanding a partner is less about being a detective solving mysteries.
And much more about staying present, listening without fear, and accepting.
Let's spend a minute on that idea of presence. The anxiety, the proactive romance, it all forced him to project scenarios and solutions onto her. It stopped him from just sitting down and asking, hey, are you just tired? The projection completely replaced any genuine inquiry.
Exactly. And the most critical insight he gets is that his instincts were behaving like overenthusiastic volunteers who built a stage when all she asked for was a chair.
That stage versus chair analogy is so powerful. We feel like we have to construct this grand fix, the perfect solution, the stage where the resolution can be formally presented.
But all that was needed was the simple act of support, the chair. The recognition of fatigue, not the erasure of it through chaotic cleaning.
The complex analysis he applied to a simple issue just created more friction. If he had just trusted the simple answer or offered a calm, present ear, the whole thing would have been over.
And that's the shortcut the source is offering us, I think. Sometimes the simplest answer is the correct one, and we only resist it because it feels insufficiently complex for our intellectual effort.
But there's a beautiful silver lining here, a connection that sort of reaffirms their relationship. It comes from the commitment to that effort, even if it was chaotic.
Yes. The narrator concludes that he would rather stumble while caring than stay still with pride.
And that is the ultimate affirmation, isn't it?
It is. Sakshi wasn't happy about the burnt lunch or the exhausted broom, but she was deeply appreciative of the intention. She loved how hard you try, even when you turn small moments into full-scale thrillers.
The willingness to engage, even imperfectly, that's what confirmed the strength of their bond. It meant they would figure it out, even if his frantic energy turned simple tiredness into a dramatic three-act play.
So we've taken this whole journey, from the high-stakes panic of "it is okay," through the frantic proactive romance, the crashing memory files, the comedy of the broom.
Right up to the acceptance that sometimes the most profound answer is simply tired. The key is replacing that urge to solve a mystery with the simple, supportive act of offering a chair.
And that reflection brings us to a final, provocative thought, drawing right for the core lesson here. We saw that the narrator's biggest issue wasn't the problem itself, but his fear of doing nothing. That fear led him to create a larger crisis.
But the chaotic effort was still appreciated in the end.
It was, but it came at a high cost. So for you, the listener, what if sometimes the most loving action, the one that truly communicates presence and trust, is simply to believe the simple answer, even when your relational instincts are screaming for a complex, fixable mystery?
Something to mull over until our next deep dive.
Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time.